A thief in the law, to many people, it sounds very cool and honorable. But many people, even those closest to such people, do not know what it is really like. There is a whole set of rules and obligations that a thief in law must follow. History of origin. It is generally believed that the thief community was formed in the 18th and 19th centuries, and in the USSR, the first thieves in the law appeared back in the 30s of the last centuries. No, of course, then there were authoritative criminals, but there was no new, more elite suit. The most authoritative in the criminal environment were considered blatari, urki, zhigani, in general, professional criminals. In fact, this was the elite. In those times, only horodushniki, shoplifters, bershitniki, burglars, maidanshchiki, railway thieves or brothel keepers, and flat thieves had the opportunity to become thieves in the law. But petty robbers, such as attic thieves, stealing laundry drying in the attic, pigeon thieves, air thieves, stealing food stalls, as well as those who did not enjoy special authority among criminals, could not join the community of thieves. The main engine of thieves of that time was the desire not to obey the authorities, to oppose the system. And a kind of elite, the so-called guardians of the traditions of the thieves' world, became thieves in law. There is also an interesting version that this community was created artificially by the NKVD to have power over the underworld. From ordinary people recruited recidivists, and then simply proclaimed them the elite, and through them they controlled the rest. After the war, it became unnecessary, but many could not give up the honorable status of the elite of the criminal world, so they continued to adhere to their rules and develop this tradition. Concepts. There are so-called classic concepts that a thief in the law must adhere to. First of all, he must not recognize the rules and norms imposed by society. Any kind of cooperation with the administration of the correctional institution, assistance in investigations, and even just communication with representatives of law enforcement agencies are prohibited. A thief in law cannot receive help from the state. All the rules must be strictly followed. It is impossible to betray them, and the renegades must be punished. It is impossible to engage in socially useful activities. The prohibition also applies to the occupation of various positions: a supervisor, master, day watchman, and even a brigadier. It is not allowed to have long-term relations with women, and even more so to start a family, to maintain any relations with close relatives. A thief is obliged to treat equals fairly and respectfully. This does not apply to lower-ranked thieves and outsiders. If a thief in law is in prison, he should maintain order there, resolve disagreements. He also needs to attract the younger generation into his milieu. One must not have any particular political preferences, serve in the army, or protect the interests of the state. A thief must be a good gambler and always pay off debts. Murder is possible only in case of defending honor and thief principles. Prohibition of rape and hooliganism. Modern thieves in law. In the modern world, a thief in the law can be a person who has undergone the so-called procedure of coronation. In addition, he must be authoritative among other criminals, do not have long-term ties with women, and even more so, not in contact with state authorities. There are quite a few cases when those who have never been behind bars are crowned for money. In the criminal world, there is even a certain name for them: orange. According to the most recent data available, 2019, there were only just over 440 thieves in the world at the time, with 93 of them in prison. In Russia, there are 37 thieves in prison and 70 at large. Today's thieves in law do not have any particular leadership, a core. They are all equal, adhering to the so-called blatnoy traditions. Various decisions are made at gatherings. Sometimes they make appeals to the underworld by means of letters. Kis IV, Malyav, and thieves' runs. In addition, at meetings, spheres of activity and influence are divided, and conflict situations are resolved. Often money is created, controlled and used, common funds. It is the thieves in law who ensure the overall stability of the criminal world in the country, although sometimes there are clashes between groups. For example, between Reds and Blacks, Spades and Diamonds, Caucasians and Slavs. A special position is occupied by thieves who control crimes in the economic sphere, as well as those who can influence political processes. As of 2005, there were about 10-15 such people. It is interesting, but abroad thieves in law prefer to settle in New York, Berlin, and Madrid. It may seem absurd, but the society needs thieves in law. There is no such thing as no criminals and crime. They have existed since the dawn of mankind. Somewhere there are more crimes, somewhere there are less, but it's all there. And it is better that there is at least some control over all this, even if it is the so-called thieves in the law.